You ever feel like you're battling some kind of invisible monster? You know, that the biggest, toughest obstacles you face aren't really out there in the world, but are actually right inside your own head. Well, let's get into that. Because the ancient myth of Sigurd and the dragon, it's so much more than just a fantasy story. We're going to look at it as a pretty powerful mirror for our own modern psychological battles.
So we all know the drill with a classic hero story, right? You've got your brave warrior, a terrifying beast, and an epic showdown. But let's just flip that whole script on its head for a second. What if that creature of scales and fire, the one everyone is so afraid of, isn't the real enemy here at all?
And boom, there it is. That's the pivot. That one simple question changes absolutely everything. It pulls the focus away from an external fight and turns it into an internal war. And this is where the story of Sigurd gets really fascinating and honestly deeply relatable.
Okay, so first up, let's look beyond the sword and the shield. We're going to reframe Sigurd not as some fearless, untouchable champion, but as a man who is absolutely crushed by the weight of his own destiny. From the very beginning, the stage is set. Sigurd is the prophesied hero. He's destined to slay the dragon Fafnir. And everyone, everyone is watching. They expect him to be brave, to be strong, to win. Just think about that pressure for a second. It's not just about fighting a monster. It's about trying to live up to a completely impossible ideal.
And this is really the core question we're digging into here. What if Fafnir wasn't just a literal dragon sitting on a pile of gold? What if he was the physical embodiment of all of Sigurd's own fears? You know, the fear of failure, the crushing anxiety of his fate, the pressure to be the hero everyone needed him to be.
So all this internal pressure, it just keeps building. And that leads us right into the next part of his psychological journey, the immense weight of that prophecy. Imagine knowing your entire fate from when you were just a kid. Is that a gift or is that a cage?
To really get inside Sigurd's head, let's bring in a modern concept, something I'm willing to bet a lot of us have felt. Imposter syndrome. It's that nagging little voice in the back of your mind, the one that tells you you're a fraud, that you don't really deserve your success, and that any minute now, everyone's going to find you out. Sound familiar?
So now think about how this applies to our hero. With every single step he takes towards that dragon, is he really thinking, I can do this? Or is there a tiny voice in his head whispering, you're not good enough? This is a huge mistake. You're not the hero they think you are. See, he's fighting a battle on two fronts at the same time.
And this is exactly why his story still hits home. Okay, we might not be fighting literal dragons, but we've all got our own, don't we? The pressure of deadlines, the anxiety of social media, that constant need to succeed. Sigurd's burden is basically our burden, just blown up to a mythological scale.
Okay, so if the dragon is a metaphor, what does he actually represent? Well, in this next part, we're going to deconstruct Fafnir himself, and you'll see he's a pretty powerful symbol of some of our deepest human flaws. On one hand, you've got the literal monster, a terrifying beast straight out of legend. But on the other hand, you have the symbolic monster, and you could argue that one is way more frightening, because it's a reflection of what any of us could become.
You see, Fafnir wasn't born a dragon. He was a dwarf who was completely consumed by his insatiable greed for gold. That obsession cut him off from the entire world, and it literally twisted him into a monster. So he represents the corrosive power of greed, the profound psychological damage that comes from total isolation, and the end result of just complete self-obsession. He's a walking, fire-breathing warning.
So when you really think about it, as Sigurd raises his sword to fight Fafnir, he isn't just fighting a beast. He is confronting the potential for that exact same greed, that same isolation that exists deep down inside his own soul. The whole battle is a test. Is he going to become the monster, or is he going to overcome it? So the hero wins. The dragon is dead. End of story, right? Happy ending? Not even close. Let's talk about the part of the story we usually ignore, the psychological shadow that follows a great victory. We love to celebrate the win, but we rarely ever talk about what comes next. After you've faced absolute darkness, how do you just go back to normal life? Does the echo of that battle ever really truly fade away? Now, we can look at what Sigurd went through using two modern ideas. Did confronting this horror lead to post-traumatic stress, where the trauma just haunts him? Or did it lead to what some psychologists call post-traumatic growth? And that's the idea that surviving something terrible can actually lead to positive changes. It can make you stronger, wiser, give you a bigger appreciation for life. The myth kind of suggests it was a bit of both.
According to the legend, tasting Fafnir's blood gave Sigurd this amazing gift. He could understand the language of birds, a gift of wisdom. But hold on, think about that. It's a power that was born from extreme violence and death. It's a constant, physical reminder of the monster he killed and the darkness he had to face to do it. It's both an incredible empowerment and a really heavy, lingering burden.
All right, let's bring all of this home. In this final section, we're going to see how this ancient Norse tale echoes so powerfully within our own modern lives and in our own internal battles.
Yeah, the details are different. We've swapped swords and prophecies for deadlines and social media, but the core struggles, they're identical. The fight against anxiety, the pull of ambition, the quiet battle for self-worth. These things are timeless. Sigurd's internal war is our war.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What is your Fafnir? What's that internal obstacle that's holding you back? Is it greed? Is it self-doubt? Maybe a fear of failure? Because just identifying your own personal dragon, well, that's the very first step to confronting it.
Ultimately, the story of Sigurd has lasted this long not just because it's a great adventure story. It's endured because it's basically a map of the human soul. It reminds us that the greatest, most important battles we will ever fight are against the dragons that live inside of us. And that is a journey we are all on.